Maritime Made is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc. because great things are happening.
It's not often a steel fabricator has the opportunity to rebuild an iconic bridge. So when the Halifax Harbour Bridges started searching for companies to rebuild the MacDonald Bridge for their Big Lift project, Cherubini Metalworks in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia jumped at the opportunity. The MacDonald Bridge is a suspension bridge that connects Halifax and Dartmouth. First opened in 1955, the bridge has reached an age where simple repairs just aren't enough. And a complete replacement of the road deck, floor beams, trusses, and suspension cables are required to extend the lifespan of the bridge. In order to keep the bridge open to vehicles during the reconstruction, it's being replaced in large deck segments, 46 to be exact, with an average weight of 130 tons. As one of the major subcontractors on the Big Lift project, Cherubini is utilizing about 80% of their capacity to help pull this project off. Many of the smaller components, as well as the temporary hanger extensions, guardrails, and the large truss sections that provide support for the underside of the deck segments, are being machined and fabricated at Cherubini's 100,000 square foot facility in the Burnside Industrial Park. Steel pieces are cut from large plate sections using a plasma oxy cutting table. The plasma oxy cutting table is able to quickly and accurately cut steel of various thicknesses into the required shapes, leaving very little waste. A larger plasma oxy cutting table is used to cut steel plate pieces, which are used in the fabrication of not only the supporting trusses, but other large components used in the construction of the bridge. This plasma oxy cutting machinery is very accurate, assuring cuts can be made straight and true over long distances during the cutting process. Many of the small pieces are welded together to create larger components, such as these temporary hanger extensions. The safety rails are designed to keep people safely on the bridge. These rails are fit and welded together in manageable sections from pre-cut steel pieces. The safety rail sections will later be galvanized to prevent rust, then connected to a finished deck segment before being installed on the bridge. The trusses are made up of heavy steel sections such as beams and plates, which are fit and welded together and used in supporting each deck segment. Each bridge deck segment includes at least 2 large trusses. First, the welder fits and secures cut sections of steel plate to form the top chord of the truss. The pieces are then welded using a custom-built gantry welder that moves on a track and lays beads of weld the entire length of the cord. Once the top and bottom cords are ready, the steel is measured and checked using digital measuring tools. This ensures everything is within tolerance prior to fitting and welding all the truss components together. A small mistake in measuring can lead to a huge mistake at the other end on the MacDonald Bridge. In fact, material is cut and fit on the long side, taking into account for any material increase or decrease in size that occurs naturally during the welding process. Leftover material is cut off later in the construction stage. Once everything has been checked and verified, the welders weld the pieces together. Once the welded truss is flipped over, trimmed, and fully inspected, it's ready for transportation and eventual installation to the underside of the deck segments at one of Cherubini's other fabrication facilities. Guardrails are used to keep vehicles from straying off the bridge should a driver lose control. For these, 50-foot steel beam sections are first drilled and cut using an automated system. A custom plasma oxy cutter is used to cut slotted holes in beam sections. These finished pieces, over 1,000 in total, will be used to attach the guardrail to the bridge deck. The guardrail itself is cut from long lengths of steel, which have splice connections. These connections are welded to each piece, ensuring a smooth transition from one rail to the next, creating a solid, interconnected rail. The main deck segments and final assembly of these bridge sections are completed at Cherubini's waterfront fabrication facility. Here, large cut sections or plate are prepped to be welded together to form the road surface of the bridge. The steel is first fit together, welded, and then ground by hand, before being seam welded using a custom welding process. The deck segments are fabricated into two halves that will be spliced together later in the production process. The majority of deck segments will have approximate surface areas that are 65 feet wide by 65 feet long, with some being smaller in size. Once the deck is ready, pre-bent steel plate ribs are fit into place and welded to the deck's surface. These giant ribs vary in length, with the majority of them being over 60 feet long. All of these ribs are bent using an in-house, custom-made steel press. The ribs add strength and support to the entire deck surface. They're first fit in place on the deck. Then a custom gantry welder is used to weld the pieces to the deck. Once the ribs are welded and the welds are checked to ensure integrity and that they meet specifications, the entire panel is moved and made ready for further work. Now the deck segment is complete, the remaining components are either welded or bolted to the segment. These include the trusses, as well as other supporting steel components. Once complete, a deck segment is trial fit to an already completed adjoining deck segment in order to ensure proper fit-up and connection during final placement and install on site. Once the deck segment has been officially signed off as 100% fabricated, it will then wait in the queue to be blasted and painted. And then the road section of the deck segment will finally be paved. After the paving has been completed, each segment will be moved to a position on a wharf, where it will eventually be hoisted onto a barge via mobile cranes, where it will then wait to be lifted into position, one segment at a time.
Maritime Made is presented by Nova Scotia Business Inc. because great things are happening.